Another potential way that firms might be making a choice instead of the sequential decision making we were looking at when we looked at the game tree is simultaneous decision making, where each firm chooses at the same time what price to choose. And the way to look at the outcome of that is by looking at a payoff matrix, which is a matrix or table that shows each possible outcome. Let's look at the payoff matrix for Jack and Jill. Well, Jill can choose a high price or a low price, and Jack can choose a high price or a low price. Let's suppose Jill chooses the high price. What's the outcome? If Jill chooses the high price and Jack chooses the high price, Jack gets $9,000 and Jill gets $9,000. If Jill chooses the high price and Jack chooses a low price, Jack gets $12,000 and Jill earns $3,000. So if Jill chooses the high price, Jack should choose a low price. What if Jill chooses the low price? If Jill chooses a low price, we can see that Jack is best off again choosing the low price, because he'll get $8,000 profit versus $3,000 profit. So no matter what Jill chooses, Jack should choose the low price. In fact, the same is true for Jill. No matter what price Jack chooses, Jill is best off choosing the low price. So Jack and Jill will end up in this quadrant of the matrix down here, each earning $8,000. This is very similar to a classic game theory example called the prisoner's dilemma. In the prisoner's dilemma, we're looking at two prisoners. Each prisoner would be better off if they did not confess. Let's look at why this works. Suppose we have Bonnie. If Bonnie doesn't confess, what should Clyde do? If they're both arrested for a crime, if Bonnie doesn't confess and Clyde does not confess, each will serve 2 years in prison. If Bonnie doesn't confess but Clyde does, Clyde will get a year, Bonnie gets 10 years. Clyde is better off confessing if Bonnie does not confess. If Bonnie confesses, Clyde is again better off for confessing. He'll get 5 years instead of 10 years. In fact, the same is true for Bonnie. So what we see is both Clyde and Bonnie are going to confess. Each will get 5 years, where they would be better off if neither confessed and only got 2 years. The prisoner's dilemma is just like the duopolist's dilemma, though. What they end up doing, because the dominant strategy, is both confess and they get the longer prison sentence.